Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, studying the Psalms verse by verse. That is all we do here on Daily Dose Radio. Now, in the Bible Bistro, there are lots of other things. You can see some preaching there. There are some other kinds of questions and answers that I've done in the past. Some things about Christian marriage in there. There's all kinds of different podcasts that the Bible Bistro has produced. So you can go check that out. On YouTube, you'll find most of it on YouTube. You'll find some of it, some of the pulpit podcasts are also produced for audio version only. And so you'll get to hear those on other outlets such as Spreaker and Stitcher, Spotify, and so forth. So check all that out if you have a time. Today we're looking at Psalm 26, verses 1, 2, and 3. Now, Psalm 26 is going to be our subject all week, so I hope you come back every day. This is another marvelous prayer of David, and we have this back and forth between his request and his confessions. So he prays and he confesses, and it's this interchange, this back and forth between the two that really is fascinating. This is, as I said, a prayer we have here in the first 3 verses, a wonderful description of the things that he's asking for. So we'll talk about that. There are 5 key words here that I want to highlight as we go through verses 1, 2, and 3. Also, the introduction of this prayer, it just says of David. That's it. So we read this and it's of David, and you can just imagine David penning these words. All right, so why don't we read the first 3 verses today of Psalm 26. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have trusted also in the Lord. Therefore I shall not slide. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. For thy loving kindness is before mine eyes, and I have walked in thy truth. Okay, so here we have 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 verses in Psalm 26, and you'll notice that he begins with this request, judge me. Now, that's probably not a request that very many of us ever ask the Lord, is it? This is kind of on the outside. You know, we definitely want mercy, and we plead for grace, but I don't know how often we ask for judgment. Judge me, he says. O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. So he's asking the Lord to measure his integrity. How am I doing? Judge me. Okay. What if we were so serious about our devotion that we prayed in this manner? Judge me. I want to know how I'm doing. Now, he's going to ask the Lord to test him as well, to examine him. So he begins with this. Judge me. I've walked in my integrity. I've trusted in you. I will not slip. And that idea of slippage is going to come back at the end of the psalm. We'll see that later on in the week. Notice the second request. Examine me. Wow. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. There's the third one. You see these imperatives. Judge me, examine me, prove me. David wants to know. He wants a report card. He's gone to the doctor, and he wants to see the results of the test. You know, you go to the doctor, they draw blood or whatever they do to take from you so they can test your health against those things. That's what David's asking for here. Again, I'm not sure that we want a test, but David's asking for it. He wants to know exactly where he is. In that test, I thought about Abraham. When I was reading this, you know, Abraham had a test. He didn't ask for it, but the Lord tested him. Remember back there with the situation with Isaac. They go up to the mountain, and God is testing Abraham. Wants to know, which is it that you love more? Do you love the son of promise more, or do you love me more? And so it was a test for Abraham, and I wonder about David here asking these questions. Examine me, test me. Notice there in verse 2 as well, try my reins in my heart. You see all these words, they fall into the same category, don't they? Judge, examine, prove, and try. All of them pretty much the same way. And then we come to verse 3. In verse 3 we have, for thy loving kindness is before mine eyes. Now in my translation I have it this way, according to your mercy set my eyes. So he's asking the Lord to do a work in his eyes, to set the eyes. To set the eyes on the Lord. I think that's the way David is looking here. He's given us those 4 words, examine, or judge, examine, prove, and try. And now he says, according to your mercy, set my eyes. Set them on what? And then notice the next thing he says there in verse 3. Truth. I have walked in thy truth. And I have here in my translation, so I will cause myself to walk in your truth. Yeah. So this is that line that separates between true and false. And David doesn't want to be found on the wrong side of that. And so he asked the Lord to set his eyes on the truth. That is the truth of his word. Well, tomorrow, I'll come back tomorrow. I'm going to reread the second part of verse 3, and then we're going to launch into verses 4 and 5. So I hope you'll join me then here on Daily Dose Radio.